Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott, and you are in the Prog Corner, where today we're going to be looking at the Netherlands. We're going to be talking about prog rock from Holland. Yeah, the Dutch certainly do know how to prog. Absolutely, they do. You know, the Netherlands is a really impressive country. They're only 134th in the world in area. They're 67th in population with a population of 17.8 million, but their GDP is over $1 trillion, only one of 17 countries in the world to have over $1 trillion GDP. And their GDP per capita 13th in the world. So yeah, the Netherlands definitely doing some things right. They are led by King Willem-Alexander, and the Prime Minister is Mark Rutte. Yeah, we're not going to be talking about, as per usual, bands with only one album. So some really great Dutch prog rock not going to be considered today, not least of which is Cargo. Man, that one and only Cargo album is amazing. Five Bridges, Tax Free, another incredible band with only one album. Pantheon, Ahura Mazda didn't make the list. Christian Bruin, none of his solo stuff made the list, but he's in a couple bands. I wonder if they made the list. Well, one of his bands did not make the list. Nine Stones Close. Monomyth did not make the list. 35007, very cool band. Triangle, Jet Black Sea, Modest Midget. Nice Beaver, and I'm wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt in honor of their opening act when I saw them last year. Within Temptation was the opening act. They're from Holland. They were great, but they don't make the list. Who's on this thing? Well, let's get it started. At number 25, it's Flamborough Head, a band led by Ido Spaninga on keyboards. They got a female vocal, Margaret Boesma. She's got a fantastic voice. These guys have 8 albums out. The first album came out all the way back in 1998. But my favorite album from them is 2013's Lost in Time. Very lush, really beautiful soundscapes here. A lot of flute and guitar. This is neo-prog. It's real pleasant stuff. I do like it. Members of this band have gone on to form other bands. There's a whole lot of interconnectivity in some of these Dutch bands. Trion, Leap Day, all connected to Flamborough Head at number 24. We just mentioned them. It's Leap Day. Yeah, this is a band with members from Flamborough Head, from King Elder, and also from Nice Beaver. They've got 6 albums out. I'm spotlighting their incredible 2009 debut called Awakening the Muse. This is fantastic stuff. Kind of splits the difference between neo-prog and symphonic prog. The band is led by Josh Hartevelt on vocals. Very cool. I like Leap Day. I like all 6 of their albums. At number 23, a band I like a whole bunch, but they've only got 2 albums, so, it brought them down a little bit lower. It's Odyssice. This is a band made up of, well, they only have 2 albums out. This is crazy. Yeah, they put out their debut, Impression, in 2000 and Silence in 2010. Both are really great. It's all instrumental. There's a lot of flute going on here. It's very melodic, but the guitars take front and center. Both albums are fantastic. I really like Odyssice. Hopefully there'll be a third album. They seem to take their time. It was 10 albums, 10 years between their first and second album, so maybe there's a third album coming. Who knows? At number 22, it's Fractal Mirror. This is a band that is led by Leo Koperdot, Ed Van Hagen, and Frank Urbaniak. They've got 5 albums out. I really like all 5, but I love their second album, Garden of Ghosts. It's produced by Brett Cull of Echoland, features Larry Fast. On this album, is it prog? Fractal Mirror is kind of more alternative than prog. I hear some Radiohead and that kind of stuff in their sound, but really cool band. They're definitely prog. They use a whole ton of mellotron, and if you're in love with a mellotron, you're probably a prog rock band. At number 21, It's Night Area. This is the band led by Gerben Klazinga. On the first two albums, his brother Jupe was with them, and they had a singer named Mark Smit. The last two albums, there's a new singer, Jan Willem Ketterlers. He sounds great. Yeah, so I really do like all these albums. All 8 Night Area albums are good. Kind of think Arena or maybe IQ mixed with a little bit of Genesis in the background. Speaking of the background, why do I have a bunch of Italian albums back here when I'm talking about Dutch prog rock? Well, clearly I had a change of heart at the last minute. I decided to go Dutch today. Obviously, I was going to do an Italian episode. That didn't happen. Yeah, The Sun Also Rises from 2004. Probably my favorite album from them, but I really like all 8 albums from them. Cool band, very good. Let's go back to the old times, shall we? At number 20, it's Association PC. This is a band formed in 1969. They put out exactly 3 albums of soft machine influenced kind of jazz rock, kind of fusion-y stuff. 1970 saw Earwax. 1971, their masterpiece, Sun Rotation. And 1973, Rock Around the Clock. All 3 are really, really good. This band is led by Jasper Vanthoff, the keyboard player. There's free jazz on here. There's stuff on here that comes close to krautrock at times because of the jazz rock feel. You're getting a little Canterbury inflection here, but all 3 of these albums are really cool. Check them out at number 19. A band I don't listen to much. I'm not going to lie. It's Epica, led by Mark Jensen and the incredible soprano Simone Simons. She's incredible. I love her vocals. I sure wish we could get rid of the death growls that Mark throws in there. I could totally do without it. This is gothic metal, dark, heavy metal stuff with progressive proclivities. This album, I'm spotlighting their 4th album, Divine Conspiracy from 2007. They started to bring in a few more progressive elements into their music. Think Camelot, think Nightwish, maybe even think Within Temptation, whom I just talked about a minute ago at number 18. It's the great neo-prog band Silhouette, formed in 2005 in Utrecht. They are led by Brian DeGrave. He's the guitar player. He's the singer. Well, there's actually a bunch of guys that sing in this band. Everybody but the drummer sings. So they do have 4 lead singers. I am spotlighting their 3rd album, Across the Rubicon from 2012. And look at that Ed Unitsky album cover. It's just incredible. A little bit of Saga, maybe a little bit of Alan Parsons Project, maybe throw in a little IQ. You got a basic idea of what Silhouette's all about. And at number 17, it's Lady Lake, formed in 1973 by Leendert Korztanch on keyboards. They still have their drummer, Jan Double, from the old days. They put out an album in 1977 called No Pictures. Incredible. In 2005, Super Clean Dream Machine came out. They'd lost one member. And then last year, not far from Lynn Lindau came out, and they still have 2 original members. I love it. I love all 3 albums from these guys. Very keyboard heavy, very cool. The name of the band obviously came from the Ninderlog album. And if you look at their latest album, even the artwork definitely makes you think of that Ninderlog album for sure. But fantastic stuff. I really like it. At number 16. Okay, here's another band that, I don't listen to a great deal, but they gotta be on the list. It's The Gathering. These guys have 12 albums out, but the one I'm spotlighting is If Then Else from 2000. This is one of the 6 albums that the great Annika von Gersbergen sings on. She was not on the first 2 albums. Then she was on like 6 albums, and she hasn't been on the last few. It's Renee and Han Rutten brothers. Brothers running this band. We're going to be seeing quite a few brother connections in Dutch prog rock. This is death metal, gothic metal, progressive metal. Maybe throw in a little trip hop in there. These guys put out an album last year that was actually not bad. The Gathering. If you dig that kind of stuff, you already know who they are. At number 15, it's Rick van der Linden's first band, Ekseption, formed in 1967 in Harlem. These guys put out 11 albums. The first the first six had Rick on it, and then he left, and he was replaced by a guy named Hans Jensen. And their first couple albums with him were really, really good. But I am spotlighting their sixth album, Trinity, from 1973. It was the last album with Rick before he went on to form a band called Trace. A lot of classical elements in this music, thrown in with the usual rock and there's jazz. So that's the kind of the three legs that this band stands on: jazz, classical, and rock. Really cool stuff. I really dig them. At number 14, it's Trion, which is a play on Trio and Mellotron thrown together. Yeah, they're a three-piece band with a whole ton of Mellotron that put out exactly 3 albums. Tortoise was the debut, then Pilgrim in 2007, and Funfair Fantasy in 2013. You've got Ed Spenega and Eddie Mulder from Flamborough Head, and then Menno Boomsma on drums. He's from Odyssice. His sister... Yeah, if you thought you recognized that last name, Boomsma, yeah, you got it right. Menno's sister, Marguerite, sings in Flamborough Head. I love Pilgrim, their 2007 album. Apparently, there are no real Mellotrons on any of these albums. They're all sampled Mellotrons, which is weird. I don't really understand, but whatever. I really enjoy this sound. Kind of mellow. You know, it's not the real bombastic prog. It's the Mellotron, man. It's smooth, and it's going to mellow you out and everything. At number 13, talking about getting mellowed out, how about a prog folk band called Flairck, founded in 1978 by Eric and Hans Visser. Yeah, brothers again, another brother configuration here. These guys put out 13 really gentle, mellow, but beautiful, acoustically oriented albums. There's a lot of flute, a lot of violin, a lot of acoustic guitars, hardly any drums on any of these albums. I'm spotlighting their second album, although the first 2 or 3 are all just really, really great. The second one was called Gewicht met de Engel, which is something about an angel, but when they reissued this thing, they called it The Lady's Back. Originally, it came out in 1980, and it's phenomenal. Like I said, the early Flairck records, highly recommended. At number 12, here's an artist that nobody ever talks about. It's Eric Van Beer and his Lifeline project. This was a guy who was in a band called Soundworks, put out a couple records under that name. Then they broke up, and he decided he wanted to just go all in with the symphonic prog. There's 9 albums out under the Lifeline project name. The debut came out in 1994. The most recent came out in 2013 called Armenia, and it's fantastic. It's actually the highest rated of all his albums. If you can imagine Japanese band Outer Limits with Steve Hackett joining, that's kind of similar to what I'm hearing with Lifeline project, but Eric De Beer, real good stuff. At number 11, let's go back to the 70s and Solution. This is a band formed in 1970. They put out 6 albums of fantastic fusion jazz rock. Their first 2 albums are incredible. I'm spotlighting the third one from 1975 called Cordon Bleu. All 5 of their albums in the 70s were really, really great. And then they had this thing, oh man, called Runaway in 1982. Their 6th and final album, stay away from it. There's guitars everywhere on it. There's disco beats. It's just, it's not great, but early Solution, phenomenal. At number 10. Yeah, we're in the top 10 now. It's Alquin, formed in 1971. And this is a very Canterbury influenced band. They've got 6 albums out, but it's really the first 2 that I care about. 1972 Marks, 1973 The Mountain Queen, which I'm spotlighting. The first one, Marks. They're both fantastic. Their albums got a little, less good as time went on for sure, but those first 2 Alquin albums, fantastic. If you like Caravan, if you like Curved Air, so yeah, there's flutes and there's sax and there's violins going on here. Really cool. I love Alquin. At number 9, yeah, we talked about Rick van der Linden already, and here we are with Trace at number 9. This was Holland's answer to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, where you had Rick van der Linden and Jaap van Eyck, joined by, they had Pierre van der Linden on one album. They had Ian Mosley from Marillion on another album. They put out exactly 3 records. Their debut came out in 74, very, very strong. Birds came out in 75, amazing. I'm spotlighting it, obviously. And then in 1976, there was something called The White Ladies, which was Trace featuring Rick van der Linden. Not great. They had clearly run out of ideas by that point, but the first 2 Trace albums are why it's ranked in the top 10. At number 8, let's talk about Earth and Fire, formed in 1968 in The Hague. This band put out 9 stunning albums, but it's their early records that really, really are important for prog heads, particularly their 1971 sophomore album, Song of the Marching Children, easily their best album, but their first 3 or 4 are actually really, really good. Yeah, I like the first 4. After that, yeah, that started getting a little dicey, but this band is led by the great Chris and Jared Kurtz, another brother team with the vocalist Journey Cagman. She is fantastic. Yeah, there's female vocals on this, but don't let that scare you off. Imagine if Grace Slick decided she wanted to join King Crimson. You have kind of an idea of what Earth and Fire sound like. At number 7, it's Sky Architect. And yeah, I promised Christian Bruin would be somewhere on this list, and here he is. But this is the great Sky Architect, who only have 4 albums out, led by Tom Lucis, the guitar player and the vocalist. I love all 5 Sky Architect albums. They're fantastic, but my favorite is 2013's Billion Years of Solitude. I think that was their 3rd album. If you like Riverside, if you like Haken, if you like Pain of Salvation, there's absolutely no reason why Sky Architect shouldn't be in your playlist. They're fantastic. I really, really like them. At number 6, how can we talk about rock music from the Netherlands and not include Golden Earring? Are they prog? Well, yeah, they are, they aren't. They're prog influenced. Certainly, these guys were formed in 1961. That's just insane. If you think about it, the Beatles hadn't even put out a record in 61, but Golden Earring were formed. Clearly, their 9th album is the one people remember the most. That's 1973's Moontan with the great hit Radar Love on it. 9 years later, they scored another hit with the Twilight Zone off the album Cut. But, you're talking about George Koumans, Barry Hay, Rinus Gerritsen, and Caesar Zudovic on drums. What a band. I love Golden Earring. Yeah, they're not prog. They're more, a rock and roll band, but whatever. They're prog adjacent. And we're talking about music from the Netherlands, and you can't omit them. At number 5. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Ayreon. How could we not? Arjen Anthony Lucassen, one of the greatest modern prog musicians out there. He does a whole lot of different things under a lot of different names. You've got the Ayreon Project, and then you've got the Star One stuff, and then you've got the Guilt Machine stuff, and the solo stuff, whatever. I guess there's 11 Ayreon albums. My favorite is the 6th one, The Human Equation, which came out in 2004. These are prog metal space operas, if you will. Just phenomenal stuff, and he brings in a ton of guest musicians on every one of his records. People ranging from Neil Morris to Fish to Bruce Dickinson to You have James LeBrie and Michael Ackerfeld and Daniel Gildenlow. Forget about it, man. This guy's Rolodex is the best in prog, and he brings everybody together. And whenever he drops a new album, it's always an event. Yeah, but Ayreon for sure had to make this list at number 4. Who said Canterbury music had to come from the UK? It's Supersister, founded in The Hague in 1967 by Robert Jan Stips, Saja van Geest, Ron Van Eck, and Marco Vjolik, who left the band on drums. They had a couple different drummers after that. They're originally going to call themselves Sweet OK Sister. I'm really glad they changed their name. Supersister's an awesome name. What do they sound like? Well, yeah, I said they're Caravan inspired. They're very Canterbury inspired. But I hear a bunch of Zappa in here too. I hear some Wigwam in here too. These guys put up 5 fantastic albums in the 70s. I'm going to spotlight their second one, To the Highest Bidder, from 1971. All 5 of those 70s albums are real good. They put out a couple albums after that I haven't heard, I don't care about. All I know is the 5 albums that came out in the 70s are phenomenal. And if you like your Canterbury music with a little less of that British, humor and witticism that I don't even understand, yeah, maybe Supersister's your band. At number 3, personal favorite of mine, it's Finch. Yeah, I know these guys only put out 3 albums, but I don't care, man. Joop van Nieuwegen is just incredible on guitar. Then you've got Clem Durdermeyer on keyboards. He's great. Peter Vink on bass. And the drummer's name is Beer. What else do you want? Beer Klaus on drums, man. All 3 of these albums are great. Definitely taking an influence from Yes and Mahavishnu Orchestra. They're all instrumental and they're incredible. They definitely were listening to their Solution albums. They definitely had heard that one Cargo album. 3 albums. 1975's debut, Glory of the Inner Force. Wow. I can't recommend it highly enough to y'all. The sophomore album came out the following year, Beyond Expression. And in 1977, Galleons of Passion. All 3 are real good. Check out Finch if you haven't already, boys and girls. At number 2, it's Kayak. Formed in 1972. Apparently, they just called it a day with 18 albums under their belt. But man, those first 5 albums are just so good with Tom Scherpenzeel, Pim Koopman, and Max Werner. Pim and Tom did most of the writing. Max was the singer. About the time that Max was getting tired of singing, he really hated his voice, which is ridiculous because he's a great singer. Pim wanted to leave the band, so Max went to the drum seat, and they hired a new singer, Edward Reekers. They did a couple more good records over the years, records like Merlin and Nostradamus and Cleopatra, but it's those first 5 albums, man. Really strong, and I'm spotlighting the second album from 1974. It was just called Kayak, even though their debut was called Kayak. So some people call this Kayak 2. Some people call this Alibi. Wait a second. The first Kayak album was called See the Sun. I'm an idiot. I should probably edit that out. But I like leaving my mistakes in. It just shows how human I am. But yeah, that second Kayak album, man, super strong from start to finish. Like I said, I can make a case for the first 5 Kayak albums. But here we go. It's number 1 time, boys and girls. And it's Focus. Oh, yeah. Thies Van Leer, Jan Ackerman, Bert Reeder, and Pierre Vanderlinden. Yeah, the bass player got a little, that bass chair got a little rotational after a while. After Focus 3, they had a couple different bass players go in and out. But same thing with Pierre Vanderlinden. He left and he came back and yeah, whatever, man. But anyway, the debut came out in 1970, Moving Waves in 71. Focus 3 came out in 73, but I'm spotlighting their 1974 masterpiece, Hamburger Concerto. Just incredible. But they didn't stop there. In 2002, Focus 8 came out, and it was amazing. 2012, Focus 10, and 2018, Focus 11. Highly recommend all of those. Why are they number 1? Well, they have a nice big discography to explore, but they also had 2 international smash hits. I know Sylvia wasn't a huge hit in the US, but Hocus Pocus was a hit globally, everywhere. Everybody knows that song, and every YouTube reactor has to do a reaction video to that song. It's just amazing. I love it. I love Focus, and that is my brief wrap up of Dutch prog rock. Yeah, it was a last minute switch up, so I hope I didn't make too many errors there. I know I did when talking about Focus, but hopefully I got most of the rest right. Anyway, it's a cold, rainy day here in Ohio, and I hope you peeps are feeling great. I will see you soon. I'm really excited. I've got an interview coming up later on this week with a band that's been dormant for over 20 years and just dropped album number 3 after like a 20-year hiatus. Who could I be talking about? You'll find out. I'm excited about it. Anyway, peace in the Middle East, guys, and God save the King. And Prince Louis too. Why not?